What up, what up, what up? Jared Wackerly back again with another episode of the Dynasty Prospect Talk podcast. Just got back from my trip to Mobile, Alabama for the Reese Senior Bowl, so I got a quick episode planned for you guys just to go over some of my notes on the prospects that we were able to watch and see with the practice tape, being live at practice, and then from the game on Saturday. So the trip to Mobile was awesome. I'm going to go back every year that I can. Got to meet one of my best friends in the industry that I haven't had the chance to meet face-to-face yet. And being down in Mobile was our first opportunity to do that, and that's Ray GQ with FTN. But we got to sit down and watch practice together. All the guys at FTN really enjoyed meeting their crew and everyone there. But Mobile was fun, man. I had definitely had some hiccups on my trip with so Cleveland was getting a snowstorm when I had to travel back. So I rearranged my travel plans. I ended up flying out a night early, and thank God I did, because my flights the flights that whole next day got canceled. So I actually missed day 2 and day 3 of practices. But the weather was terrible in Mobile for those 2 days. Day 2, it was raining sideways. Day 3, they actually moved practice inside, so I wouldn't have been able to even go. But the nice thing is the Senior Bowl provides all media credentialed people with access to the All-22 film of practice. So I was able to actually get a better view than what I had sitting in the stands. Of course, I'm not there live, but I was able to rewind, watch all the different camera angles, and just be real up close with the prospects I was trying to evaluate. So I actually got a better look than what I would have had. And thank God they had that for me. So I was able to catch up on what I missed live. But the trip was awesome. Had another hiccup with my hotel room. They were overbooked at the place that I booked at, so they had to send me around the corner. Ended up getting my stay comped, and they gave me like 90,000 free Marriott points too, which is like awesome. Now my wife and I can go on a 2-day trip somewhere. That worked out. Wasn't a bad stay anyway. It wasn't a bad hotel. But just, I bitched to customer service just to see if I can get it comped and stuff. But Senior Bowl is it's so fun. If you haven't been, I recommend you guys going. It's a great atmosphere. You get to go out at night and you're around NFL execs, head coaches, people in the scouting community in general, and you get to bump shoulders and shake hands with a lot of different people that you may know online or haven't met yet, and things like that. It's just a real good networking opportunity. You're around football people. I really enjoyed it. It's my second year going. Last year was my first year, and it was during like the COVID madness, so it was way different than it was this year. But I'm going to try to go back as many times as I can. I'm going to try to make it an annual thing. We'll see about that. So today's episode, I want to get into my notes on the prospects from this week, from practices and the games, talk about them a little bit, my thoughts on these players as we start rolling into getting our evaluations done and tape grades officially like locked in here, over the next couple months. One thing I do want to say just off the rip, what the Senior Bowl is. It's an all-star game. We're watching practice. It's a very, very small sample size. The guys are learning new offenses. They're playing with guys that they aren't used to playing with, especially when it comes to the quarterbacks. The weather was terrible. The wind was really strong, and they're throwing their wide receivers that they don't have any chemistry or timing with, things like that. So it's pretty common for quarterbacks to be inaccurate during this week, and they all were. I mean, everyone had their ups and downs as far as accuracy goes. Sam Howell was floating balls over people's heads pretty much all week. Desmond Ridder was inconsistent, but he made some nice throws. But this quarterback class, the quarterback class that Jim Nagy and his team at the Senior Bowl was able to bring in this year was very, very strong. I mean, you had every single guy there that you could have asked for, except for Matt Corral from Ole Miss. He was like the only quarterback that was not present at the Senior Bowl. So we were able to really get a good look with everybody on the field at the same time. I shouldn't say at the same time. The national team practiced and then the American team practiced. So there was like 3 at a time. Bailey Zappe was another quarterback that was at the Senior Bowl, rightfully so. He threw for almost 6,000 yards this year and just put up incredible numbers. So we'll get into these quarterbacks, what I thought about them. The tight end group was very strong as well. They had most of the top tight ends in this class, so we were able to see all of them side by side as well, and we'll get into how I felt about that group, some of the running backs, some of the wide receivers. So we'll go through them here, let you know what I think. We got some official measurements on these guys, so we can talk about that. Like I said, the main thing from the Senior Bowl is we want to find maybe some diamonds in the rough, some guys that we weren't really keen in on that may have popped at Senior Bowl that we need to take a second look at. Because at the end of the day, the tape is what matters. Senior Bowl is nice, but it's better for NFL evaluators that get to have their hands on these players this week, get to have all these different interviews, but we don't get the opportunity to do that. So it's important not to put too much weight into this. So I'm going to give you my notes with that in mind and just talk about who we need to look at, who may have dropped down my board a little bit, and who may have separated themselves from the pack here. So we'll start with the quarterbacks right off the top. So like I said earlier, everyone struggled. Inaccuracy issues left and right. The wind was strong. Not making excuses for them, but you could just tell that they were learning new system, learning how to throw to these wide receivers that they haven't thrown to. It was practice. It's practice. So we'll start with Bailey Zappe. I'm just going to say he's not worth much for us in Dynasty Fantasy Football. He's a backup quarterback in the NFL, and I think he's actually going to be a pretty solid backup. So in the Superflex leagues, maybe late third, early fourth, around there, you might want to just take a shot at Bailey Zappe, throw him on the taxi squad, let him sit. He may get a shot in the NFL at some point, kind of like a Gardner Minshew. But he just doesn't really have a strong arm, not really physically imposing at all, only 6 foot, 215. Can't really push the ball downfield, but he does have a nice touch on his passes. But the arm strength, that's just the biggest issue with me with him. And why does arm strength matter? It's not just how far you can chuck a ball. It's not how far you can throw it. It's the velocity in which it comes out of your hands. Because in the NFL, when you're coming from college to the NFL, the windows are so much smaller. The players are so much faster. It's important that you're able to whip it, obviously accurately. But ball velocity is so important, and that's paired up with arm strength. Now, throwing it down the field is also very important. You're able to attack all 3 levels of the football field. But a lot of people, when they think of arm strength, it's just how far a guy can throw it. But that's not the case. It's how fast, what the velocity is coming off the quarterback's arm. So they actually did test that down in Mobile this week, and Malik Willis had the fastest ball velocity in Mobile this week. And, I mean, it shows that his passes were just cutting through the wind. He just throws it, flick of the wrist like it's nothing. So at the Senior Bowl, I was really paying attention to who looked different compared to the other players in their position group, who stood out. And Malik Willis, with his arm strength, definitely stood out. And then we have Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett coming in Senior Bowl week. Most people have him as QB1 in most mock drafts that you see. Going to be 24-year-old rookie, so he's going to be an older player in this draft class. But, that's not too bad. You're definitely going to get plenty of years out of him if you were to take him as your franchise quarterback in the first round. Came in at 6'3", 217. He didn't really wow me this week, but there was nothing that he did that made me drop him down or diminish his draft stock. If you've been following me for a while, you know I've loved Kenny Pickett for the last couple years. I never thought that he would be a first-round pick, but man, he blew up this year, rightfully so. He had a fantastic season at Pitt. But, I mean, he just did what he was supposed to do this week. He definitely had some instances where he made some questionable decisions that made me scratch my head. I'm not sure why he was throwing it where he was, but nothing really changed for me with Kenny Pickett. You kind of know what you're getting with him. He's a really experienced player, probably going to be able to come in and play right away for a franchise that drafts him. I think he's NFL ready. I've seen the Derek Carr comp thrown out a lot for him, and I think that's fair. The funny thing is in the comments that are being made about him is he didn't get his hands measured at the Senior Bowl, and I want to talk real quick about why hand size might matter. And with Kenny Pickett, it doesn't. He played at Pitt, where the weather wasn't always the best, and he proved that he could play in poor weather conditions. Now, with hand size, when you do need to be worried are guys that are coming from places where they're playing and the weather is just always okay, always good, and they come in with small hands. You've never seen them handle a wet ball or a ball in crappy conditions. But with Kenny Pickett, I mean, he played in it quite often, so he's already proven on film that doesn't matter. So there's really nothing to talk about with Kenny Pickett and his hand size. It's a moot point. I think people just like to have fun with it, and that's fine. He wears 2 gloves. People call him Kenny 2 Gloves, but It didn't matter. The ball size doesn't change from college to the NFL. You do lose the stripes on the end of the ball, but nothing else changes in terms of the ball. So nothing you really need to be worried about. So Desmond Ridder, Sam Howell, Carson Strong. Let's just talk about those three right away. None of them impressed me. I thought Carson Strong was really consistent. He did make some nice throws that I was expecting him to make more of. A lot of back shoulder attempts. He was there with Romeo Doubs and Cole Turner. Cole Turner tight end, Romeo Doubs wide receiver, both from Nevada. So I thought he would pair up with them or try to pair up with them a little more and show off their rapport. But a couple times where he was paired up with Romeo Doubs, they didn't connect in one-on-one. So I don't know. Carson Strong, he looked uncomfortable dropping back from under center, I noticed. One thing that was important with Carson Strong is he has a lot of medical concerns with his knee. He had knee surgery before the 2021 season. He came back after 6 months. It was supposed to be a year-long recovery. He came back after 6 months, kind of rushed back because he did not want to miss this season. So all year he was playing with a knee brace, and this week at the Senior Bowl he did not have a knee brace on. So he said he was comfortable. Jim Nagy put out a tweet that there were no red flags or medical concerns based on the NFL doctors that looked at him for the Senior Bowl. So that's good to hear, because I think that's one thing that could cause him to drop in the NFL draft. I think Carson Strong has the talent to be a late first-round pick, early second-round pick. He was moving a bit in Mobile, which we didn't really see from him in this college season, but that's more likely attributed to his knee issue. Not the best athlete, but he was able to move a bit. So I like seeing that. I wasn't impressed with him as far as his decision-making. I thought his arm, on film, his arm is really good, but his arm was he was floating a lot of passes. So I think he just had a bad week, to be honest with you. I don't think it was terrible, but I don't think he shot up any draft boards or anything like that. This was a real big opportunity for him, and I don't think he really took advantage of it, so to speak. So I still like Carson Strong, came in at 6'4", 226, but that knee issue, I think that's going to cause him to drop, and he doesn't really give you any rushing upside whatsoever. He's a statue in the pocket, but he can make every throw. So true pocket passer, Carson Strong, still like him. Look for him to possibly be at the end of the first round there in the coming NFL draft. Sam Howell didn't impress me at all, but Sam Howell's put plenty on tape. He started since he was a freshman. We all know what Sam Howell is. He can make every throw. He's got a good arm. He's got good touch. I think he's just a little inaccurate or inconsistent with his accuracy. He can give you some rushing upside. I think Sam Howell's a lock for the first round this year. As far as his performance in Mobile, I don't think he did anything special. Didn't really separate himself. He's just in the mix there in the middle of this QB class. Only came in at 6 foot. So we'll see with Sam Howell. Jury's still out on him. I don't have my full evaluation for him yet, but I think he can come in and be a solid starter, back end starter in the NFL. Desmond Ridder, Cincinnati quarterback, 6'3", 207. Made some good throws this week and played well in the game on Saturday. The only thing with Desmond Ridder, and when you sit down and you watch practice and you just watch these guys throw after throw after throw, he's just inconsistent with his ball placement. And I know everyone knows that with him. He's a winner, though, and he's said to be a really great leader, has those intangibles, kind of like a Jalen Hurts. And that's who I compare him to as a prospect, not really their play type so much, but just as a prospect. He's going to come in. People are going to love him in the locker room. Can make throws, can make plays with his feet, but his accuracy is just questionable. He's throwing balls behind guys, too high, too outside, things like that, just making his receivers work a little too much. And then the NFL, those windows just keep getting smaller with the speed of the game. So I'm a little worried about Ridder at the next level. I don't think he's a first-round pick. I think he's going to be a guy that may be taken in the second round. But I wouldn't be surprised if he earns a starting gig in the NFL at some point and does something with it. I think he can, with his ability to make plays on the ground. He's smart, understands his offense. You see his Cincinnati tape. He's making checks of the line, making sure his team's in the right play call based on what the defense is showing them. So you like to see those things. So with Ridder, he's a guy that I wouldn't mind taking a shot on, but back end of third round in a super flex draft, we'll see where he gets taken in the NFL draft. I mean, if he ends up being a first-round pick, which I don't think he will be, obviously we're going to have a much different conversation here. But Desmond Ridder, that's what I think about him. Now, the big winner this week from the quarterback group I thought was Malik Willis. Hands down, he's the guy that stood out for me. Not just with his playmaking on the ground. I mean, if you watch the game on Saturday, which I encourage you to go back and watch it, but man, he was just making plays on the ground, which we love to see from a fantasy football perspective. He's a lock for the first round. Some team is going to take a shot on this kid. I mean, his arm is live. Like I said earlier, the ball just cuts through the wind, like Jim Nagy said during the game on Saturday. You can just see it. The ball pops out of his hand. And when watching him, he's a guy that the guys were rallying behind at practice. You know, he's always having fun with players, and that's something I noticed last year with Mac Jones. You can tell that the players really gravitate towards him. He was named the top quarterback on the American team by a vote from his defensive teammates throughout practices. They saw that he was clearly the best guy on the American team, and I think we all saw that. I think we all saw that he was the best quarterback in Senior Bowl at the Senior Bowl in Mobile this week. The one thing I was really watching with Malik Willis was his decision-making, because that's the big question mark that I had from him from watching his tape. I thought he took too many unnecessary sacks, too many bad throws or interceptions that he shouldn't have thrown, but I was wondering, is it because he's playing at Liberty where he's asked to make these plays in order to put his team in the position to succeed or to win? Because Liberty's, they're not very good. And for the most part, there were only one or two plays that made me scratch my head. And compared with the rest of the guys, I thought he did a very good job of making the right reads, throwing it to the right person, hitting them accurately with a nice pass. I mean, he made several very, very good throws in one-on-one, 7-on-7s, even during team live periods. And I thought he did a good job in the game on Saturday too. I love Malik Willis, man. I think he offers so much upside for fantasy football players. He's going to get taken in the first round. There's no doubt about that. And that's what we love to see from a fantasy football standpoint, is what quarterbacks get taken in the first round, and let's divvy him up from there. He's going to be able to score points with his legs. He's going to be able to make every throw. Now it's just going to be about how that offensive coordinator or that head coach builds that team around him, kind of like Baltimore did with Lamar Jackson. He's not that kind of athlete, but I mean, any quarterback you take, doesn't have to be Malik Willis, Lamar Jackson. You need to build your team around their strengths. So we'll see where Malik Willis ends up going, but he was a big winner for me this week. I encourage everybody to go to the Dynasty Nerds film room, check out the Malik Willis tape that we have, and see for yourself. If you're not a Nerd Herd subscriber and you don't have access to the film room, make sure you sign up. Use promo code FILM15. You get 15% off of the membership. So let's move on here to the tight end group, because the Senior Bowl did a great job of bringing the top talent from the tight end position to Mobile this past week, excluding Jalen Wydermyer. I don't think he was eligible. If you aren't a senior and you're a junior, but you're on the path to graduate, you are eligible for the Senior Bowl. That's why we're able to see some of these underclassmen perform at the Senior Bowl this week, like Sam Howell. But I'm just going to go through some names that I think will be fantasy football relevant or should be considered in rookie drafts, and then I'll talk about my top guy. Right off the back, Charlie Kolar, 6'6", 256 from Iowa State. He looked good, man. He just catches the ball so smooth. His hands are soft as butter, dude. I think he's going to be a fantastic red zone weapon at the next level. He's not the most nimble or shifty athlete. He's not going to make a ton of plays after the catch, but that size is just undeniable, 6'6", 256, and he does move fine. Like, I'm not worried about that, but he's not going to be like a Kyle Pitts or even like a Gronk. He doesn't move like that. He's not fast like Gronk was, or doesn't move like Travis Kelce or Darren Waller. I don't think he'll ever be those type of tight ends, but I think he could be a nice possession tight end, guy that you see catch touchdowns. So Charlie Kolar, I thought, had a nice week. Greg Dulcich from UCLA, 6'4", 250, former walk-on at UCLA. When you talk about having a weapon at tight end, this kid is a weapon. He's a very, very good receiving tight end, and I haven't done enough film study on him yet, so I need to go back in and watch the tape. But from what I saw in Mobile, was a guy that can get in and out of breaks, make people miss and in the open field. He's fast. He Guy has good hands. So Greg Dulcich is a guy that was completely off my radar, but now I got to go in and watch the tape on this kid. I highly suggest you do the same, but he's definitely a name to write down and somebody to keep in the back of your head. Jeremy Ruckert from Ohio State came in at 6'5", 250. He's a kid that I knew that could do a good job of blocking, but Ohio State doesn't really use their tight end. So it was nice to see him in one-on-one situations, one-on-one drills, 7-on-7s, team offense versus team defense, showing his ability to go out and make plays as a pass-catching tight end. I think Jeremy Ruckert is underrated because his stats weren't great. Like I said, Ohio State doesn't really use their tight ends for whatever reason. I think Jeremy Ruckert did a fantastic job at the Senior Bowl, and I think he could be a day 2 pick. I think a lot of these guys could be day 2, early day 3. I think this tight end class is pretty deep. I don't think we have any top-tier guys except for maybe one who I'm about to talk about now. This tight end group is good. I don't know how good it is for fantasy, but I think there's plenty of guys here that you want to throw on your taxi squad. So top guy from this past week, easily, hands down, I think he's tight end 1 in the class. It's Trey McBride from Colorado State. I know Rich Dotson's high on this kid. Ray GQ, high on this kid. So many people fell in love with him even more this week. 6'3", 250, not the tallest guy, but man, he's big, he's stocky, and he was actually the best blocking tight end this week in Mobile. When I was watching the tape, man, he's nasty. I like what I see from him. And the best thing for us dynasty managers and fantasy football players is he's a fantastic pass-catching tight end. He gets in and out of his breaks, super smooth, has great hands, can make people miss, he's fast. I love Trey McBride. He was named the top tight end by the national team. He won the John Mackey Award this year in college football, which goes to the top tight end in the country. So Trey McBride, I actually think he could go at the end of the first round. He's going to be if not, he's going to be a second round pick. I think he's just a fantastic football player. I love what I see from this kid. So I'm definitely targeting him in my tight end premium leagues. It doesn't even have to be tight end premium. I'm targeting him. I want to come away with Trey McBride if I can. Make sure you write his name down. I think he may be like the only fantasy stud at the tight end position from this class. So Trey McBride, love him. Now let's get into these running backs and wide receivers. So at the Senior Bowl this week, we had Abram Smith from BYU, Rachaad White from Arizona State, Dameon Pierce from Florida. We had Devontae Price from Florida International, Saquandre White from South Carolina, Brian Robinson from Alabama, Jerome Ford from Cincinnati, Tyler Badie from Missouri. And we also had TJ Pledger come in late in the week from Utah, former Oklahoma transfer. He actually played pretty well on Saturday. I have him scattered across a couple Campus to Canton League rosters, but I'm not sure how much upside he offers from fantasy football standpoint, so I won't really talk about him too much. But a guy that I did just mention, Tyler Badie. Dude, I love this kid as a pass-catching running back, kind of like a Nyheim Hines or J.D. McKissick for fantasy football purposes. He just shows off so much speed, so much burst, the ability to make people miss. Came in at 5'7", 199, so he's pretty thick. Not the tallest guy, but not too worried about his height. It's more so worried about his frame. You know, how can he hold up to getting hit in the NFL? And 5'7", 200, that's pretty thick. So I like Tyler Badie a lot. I thought he looked really good this week. Definitely a guy that I'm going to be targeting in rookie drafts, seeing if I can steal like a Nyheim Hines, J.D. McKissick type guy, because those guys are fantastic to have on your fantasy football roster to throw them in the flex spot. So Tyler Badie, make sure you guys take a look at him. A guy that stood out compared to everyone, Brian Robinson from Alabama, 6'1", 226, and he looked every part of that. He kind of looked like Najee Harris last year. Najee Harris attended the Senior Bowl, didn't really participate in too many drills, but he did the individual drills, so you were able to kind of take a look at him compared to the other guys like Trey Sermon, and he just stood out. But Brian Robinson, they breed him differently in Alabama. He just looked the part out there, just a beast. He actually didn't impress me that much this week, but I like his tape. I thought he had a really good 2021 season, and I think Ray says it best. Brian Robinson is going to be that guy that comes in at the 5-yard line and just vultures those touchdowns from your favorite fantasy football running back. That's the kind of player that he projects to be at the next level. I don't really think he's ever going to be much more than that. I'm not going to have him in my top 5 because of that. I just don't think he offers that much scoring upside from a fantasy football standpoint. Probably going to be like a third-round rookie pick, in my opinion. But we'll see where he ends up going in the NFL draft. I mean, he lands somewhere that's running back needy. It's a little light on that depth chart. I'll definitely be rethinking that. For right now, Brian Robinson didn't really surprise me or didn't really wow me this week like I thought he might. Devontae Price, Florida International, came in at 6'1", 198. He looked thin. He's like a longer type running back. I actually thought he looked pretty smooth. Had some nice cuts, caught the ball pretty well, held up in pass pro drills. So he's a guy that I haven't really dug in too much yet. But this is a guy that even Garrett Price was talking to me about a couple weeks ago, that he's a guy that he's kind of liking when he's watching his tape. So I haven't had a chance to get into Devontae Price yet, but I'm excited to. Based on what I saw in Mobile, I thought he actually showed out pretty well this week. Abram Smith had a good game Saturday. He didn't really pop for me. He just kind of does his thing. Former linebacker, converted running back for BYU. Or have I been saying BYU for Abram Smith? I'm sorry if I said that earlier. Baylor. I don't know why that B was stuck in my head. But Abram Smith, Baylor. I almost wanted to say BYU again. That's Tyler Algier. But he didn't really wow me this week. Not the most athletically gifted guy. Runs hard, though. Is able to make people miss. I think he's just a solid player, kind of like a Justin Jackson type player. Just going to get the job done. Probably be a backup running back in the NFL. Have some handcuff upside. Probably like a 4th-round rookie pick if I had to guess right now at this point. He was voted as the top running back on the national team by his defensive teammates, so obviously that says something. Maybe I missed it. It was tough to evaluate running backs this week because they were in half shells all week. There were no live periods where they were tackling into the ground, so most of the time players were touching off. So it was tough to evaluate, how's this guy break tackles or anything, and that's such a big part of playing the running back position. So Abram Smith, don't love him. Haven't dug in yet on him either, but I thought he had a solid week, but nothing that really stood out to me. Kind of like Kenny Pickett this week, just kind of did his thing and did it well, but nothing that was like, oh man, this guy's awesome. Now, a couple guys that I thought were awesome, Rachaad White and Dameon Pierce. I'll talk about Rachaad White first here. Arizona State running back, came in at 6 foot, 210, and I just thought he just played fantastic this week. I thought he saw the holes very well. He was decisive. He caught the football well, was able to get open with his route running, and I love this kid's tape. He makes people miss. Not the fastest guy, but I don't care about speed too much. Obviously, in order to be like an elite prospect at the running back position, I'd like you to have speed like Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey, but we don't have any of those in this class. So I think Rachaad White offers a super safe pick at the running back position. I think he's going to get early day 3 draft capital, probably be mid-second round rookie pick, and I think you're going to be able to get a really solid running back here and a guy that's probably going to be a part of a committee at the NFL level, but may be able to get you 10 to 11 fantasy points. So Rachaad White's good, man. I like this kid a lot. I think he may end up being in my top 5 running backs for this class. Still have plenty of work to do, but I thought he had a really solid mobile and showed everybody what he's capable of. And my winner at the position for the week is Dameon Pierce from Florida. Came in at 5'9", 220 pounds. So he's a little bowling ball. And he was a player that I was real interested in seeing in Mobile because I liked him at Florida. I have him on some Devy rosters, some Campus to Canton rosters. So I was fully aware of this kid coming in. I thought Florida didn't do a good job of utilizing him. They used the 2-3 back system the last couple years when I thought Dameon Pierce should have been their workhorse. And I don't know why they do that. Dan Mullen probably had his reasons, but he's a player that I think projects better as an NFL running back than college running back. He's a grinder. He's able to get you 4 or 5 yards up the middle, and he runs mean. He runs behind his pads. He's quick. He can make people miss. I think his footwork is fantastic. That's what I love about him. I was watching the individual running back drills, and he just looked so in control of his feet. He looked the best in those drills. I thought he looked the best in the pass protection drills. I think Dameon Pierce is going to be a riser for a lot of people as people have their takeaways from the Senior Bowl. He gets more hype, and they go back to the tape and actually watch the little opportunities that Florida gave him in that sample size, he looks good. He had good games against Alabama and Georgia this past year. We have both those all-22 games in the Dynasty Nerds film room, so make sure you check those out. Again, if you're not a subscriber, use promo code FILM15 to get 15% off your membership. But Pierce is close to being in my top 5 in this class, man. I think he's able to come in right away and be a second fiddle, even a first fiddle in a running back by committee, and he's not going to get taken off the field at the goal line. I think he's going to be a grinder at the next level, get you those touchdowns. I think he could be a fantasy producer, man. I think he's a sleeper. So he's definitely one of my sleepers in this rookie class. So write his name down, book it. I think there's a shot that he gets day 2 draft capital. So if he does at the running back position, I mean, that's huge. So can't wait to see where he goes. I love Dameon Pierce. Let's move on to the wide receivers. Getting a little long on time, so I'm going to kind of just hit on the guys that really impressed me this week, and there were 4. So Calvin Austin from Memphis, 5'7", 173. So short, very short, but his frame, I mean, he's different than like a Tutu Atwell. Tutu Atwell was like small, but Calvin Austin is like pretty put together for his frame. Extremely quick, extremely bursty, fast, catches everything that's thrown in his vicinity. I think he could be a very good slot receiver at the next level. So I'm very interested to see what kind of draft capital Calvin Austin gets. The likelihood that he hits from a fantasy football perspective is pretty low just based on his profile. He was a former walk-on at Memphis, but I mean, he showed out this week. I think he was actually the best receiver in Mobile. Nobody could guard him in one-on-ones. He was always open, catching everything. I really like what I saw from Calvin Austin this week. It's just that size leaves me wanting more from a prospect. So I think that's definitely going to hold him back from a fantasy football perspective. But if he does land in like a slot role and he's a starter and he's in an offense that likes to pepper that slot position, he could be a little nice PPR guy. So I like what I see from Calvin Austin. Definitely going to keep him on my radar and dig more into the tape. Jalen Tolbert, 6'1", 195 from South Alabama. And if you don't know, the Reese Senior Bowl is held at South Alabama's campus at their facilities. So this was like a home game for him. So it's pretty cool to see him out there kind of representing his school. But he did. I mean, he represented it well. He looked great out there. I think he did a fantastic job of showing off his ball skills. He has good catch radius. He's able to make jumps and turns in the air and shield the defender off with his body. Thought he did a great job of getting off the line of scrimmage. He's quick. He's fast. Good hands. I like what I see from Jalen Tolbert. Definitely a guy I needed to jump back into the film on. Haven't watched much of him, but he impressed me at the Senior Bowl, and I'm excited to see. I think he could be a day two pick in the NFL draft and be a wide receiver 2 for a team. I really do. I think he's good. Some guys that I'm just going to say that I don't think are going to be anything for us. Danny Gray from SMU, Trey Turner from Virginia Tech. Velus Jones had some moments, but I think he's more of a special teams guy than he is receiver in the NFL, so I don't think he really holds too much fantasy upside. Dontario Drummond was a guy that I liked a lot from Ole Miss, 6 foot, 217. Put a lot of good tape out there as far as his ability to make plays after the catch. But that's what they did at Ole Miss. They threw him the ball around the line of scrimmage and asked him to go make people miss or break tackles, and he didn't really have that opportunity. He was playing a lot of outside receiver in Mobile, which was good to see because I wanted to see if he could do that, and I just came away pretty disappointed with Drummond. I don't think he's a guy at all that we need to be worried about from a fantasy football standpoint. He couldn't get open, looked slow, struggled to get off the ball. He did have good hands. Thought he caught the ball pretty well, but I mean, other than that, I wasn't too thrilled with what I saw from him. Braylon Sanders from Ole Miss, Bo Melton, and they brought in a couple other guys. I'm sorry I don't have their names here during the week. I thought all those guys were just kind of meh. Don't really need to worry about them. Romeo Doubs from Nevada, 6'1", 203. I thought he had a pretty good week. It was up and down. He really struggled getting off the ball, off the line of scrimmage. He was pressed a lot in those one-on-one situations, and there were a couple of times where they didn't even throw the ball because he got pressed so bad and he couldn't get off. So that's a red flag for me, and I don't think he offers enough from a ball skills, catch radius standpoint to being like an X receiver. I think if he were to be anything in the NFL, would be more of like an MVS type guy. Down, stretch the field. He's fast. Take the top off of defense type of guy. Other than that, I think he's like a day 3 pick, possibly a guy that we take in the 4th round of rookie drafts, or possibly like a 5th round guy if you have a 5th round in your rookie draft. Other than that, I don't think Doubs offers too much from a fantasy football standpoint. Khalil Shakir from Boise State, I definitely want to talk about him because I thought, one, he came in at a good size, 6 foot, 193, and 2, I thought he played very well. I thought in terms of getting off press, I thought he presented the best release package this week in Mobile. Now, he isn't fast. He isn't explosive. You're going to see that on his tape, but he's able to separate using his technique. He's quick at the line of scrimmage. He does a great job of using his hands to get hands off of him. And then he's real good at using his shoulders and head to kind of fake out the DB or throw them off on where he's going in his route. So he's a real good route runner, real good with release, and he catches the football. I mean, he's just a football player, dude. He makes so many plays. I think he had at least 4 or 5 touchdowns in practices this week. So I thought Khalil Shakir did a really good job, really nice job. Possible 3rd round rookie pick, I think. Still probably like a day 3 pick in the NFL, but a guy that I may be targeting later because I think he could find a role in an offense. And then Alec Pierce from Cincinnati, 6'3", 208. He was a guy I was high on coming into the week. I really wanted to see how he did against better competition than what he faced off against in the AAC. A guy that I knew had fantastic athleticism. He's probably going to run a 4.4, probably going to jump over 40 inches at the combine. He's going to kill the combine. I thought he had a pretty good week. I was left wanting a little more from him in terms of his footwork and his ability to get open, but I mean, he's got great size. He has good ball skills. He's got great athleticism. I think he's someone that's worth taking a shot on in rookie drafts, probably like a 3rd round pick too, kind of like a Khalil Shakir. I think he has the upside of going late day 2, possibly in the NFL draft, just due to his size and athleticism. I think a team's going to take a shot on him and try to develop him a little bit. He's got long arms too. So Alec Pierce is a guy I liked. I don't think he really wowed anybody at the Senior Bowl, but I thought he did well enough that he's not really going to drop his draft stock any. I think where he's really going to explode is the combine because he's a freak. And then the last but not least wide receiver I want to talk about is a guy that was completely off my radar, completely off most people's radars, and that's Christian Watson from North Dakota State. 6'4", 211, rangy athlete, ran an official 4.4 coming out of high school, so you know he's fast, and he's got long arms. He's able to adjust to the football in the air. Man, he had a great week. And actually, he's probably the best receiver in Mobile this week, not Calvin Austin. I mean, it's Christian Watson. He tore it up. So I think he could get early day 2 draft capital for real. Like, I think he's a round 2 pick and a guy that you're going to want to target in your 2nd round of your rookie drafts because I think he could be a starter in an NFL offense. I mean, he's got great size, 6'4", long arms. He was quick in and out of his breaks and his route running. So I'm definitely going to need to go back in and check out the tape on Christian Watson, but write his name down. I mean, he's definitely going to get pretty good NFL draft capital, and he's most likely off a lot of people's radars because he went to North Dakota State. So it was good to see him going against better competition at the Senior Bowl, and he tore it up. I mean, he did a great job this week. He definitely was the biggest riser in my eyes from everyone that we've talked about so far. Christian Watson's the biggest riser, biggest winner from the Senior Bowl. So I think there are definitely some good takeaways from Senior Bowl week. I think there are guys that you need to write their names down, dig into the film that we have in the Prospect Film Room at dynastynerds.com. Again, if you're not a subscriber, sign up using promo code FILM15 to get 15% off and dig in. And hit me up on Twitter if you aren't sure what you're watching and you're new to watching tape, new to evaluating players. I played the game. I love to dig in and grind the tape and evaluate these guys. A lot of these players that were at the Senior Bowl I don't have tape grades for yet, but it's only February. Got a couple months. I'll be getting them in soon. And yeah, man, I'm excited. I don't want to put too much emphasis on guys that did not have a good week, but I know their film is strong because it was such a small sample size. We went over that at the beginning, so don't put too much emphasis on Senior Bowl reports, on videos like this, on articles. I wrote an article, Senior Bowl recap, that'll be coming out on Dynasty Nerds on Monday morning. Make sure you check that out. But Senior Bowl is just a great opportunity for guys like Christian Watson, Dameon Pierce, Tyler Badie to make a name for themselves and really bring up their draft stock. So I appreciate everybody listening. I'll be back with some prospect breakdowns and my thoughts on more of this rookie class as I get through more of the tape and I start tiering these guys out and ranking them and moving them around a little bit. I'll be back with my rankings and my thoughts on these guys more as we continue on through this draft season. So appreciate y'all. Make sure you subscribe, dynastynerds.com. Follow me on Twitter @JaredWackerlyFF. Until next time, appreciate you, Nerd Herd. I'm out.